And
Wow.
just like that, we are live
Amazing.
with another episode.
Yeah, episode 163 of the A2 show.
Yeah.
Amazing. Another day, another
Days.
episode. Today we're joined by Moe Abbas.
You want to go ahead and let the world know who you are and what you do?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, my name is Moe Abbas, or you can call me Mo. I'm a research associate at New York University, Abu Dhabi. And actually, I'm a professional astronomer, so I do research more about astronomy. And to be more specific, I do research about our home galaxy, the Milky Way.
Amazing.
So what I try to do is I try to make better maps for our galaxy to better understand how it was formed, and also I try to promote astronomical sciences in the MENA region, in the Arab world, to be more specific. So this is all about me.
That's pretty cool. So
That's pretty
astronomy, astrology. What's the difference?
Well,
right off the bat.
Well, as astrology is when you want to make so much money. Astronomy is when you want to make the science of the universe. So astronomy really is, which is what I do, is when you want to study the physical phenomena around you. Like you want to study the stars, the planets, the sun, the evolution of the universe. You want to answer questions like, how did this universe begin? How did it evolve? Maybe why are we here? And so on. So it's more the scientific part of this very big umbrella.
And astrology, you think?
I
don't know.
Well, to be honest, astronomy started with astrology. Astrology is very, very old. It's a very old science, astrology. And astrology is when you want to see how the motion of the planets or the constellations or the appearance of the sky will influence our everyday lives. And some people believe in it, some people don't. But astrologers, which one are you? Astronomy
I don't believe in astrology.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna stay.
Yeah, I always say a bunch of stars out in the night sky in a random position doesn't make me, angry all the time, or jealous or whatever they say.
But is there any truth to it? Is there any truth in the stars, the way they align to how scientifically?
Look, scientifically speaking, at least for the science that we know of, not really.
Okay.
But who am I to say that no, it's not related at all to our everyday lives? Because the universe is mostly made from dark matter and dark energy, and these are things we have no idea about. So what I'm trying to say is that there's so many unknowns in the universe.
Who knows?
That perhaps there's this kind of connection between us and those stars, but not in the way they try to picture it, like astrologers. And I just want to say that the reason why astrology lasted so long, one of the reasons, is that the most famous and the most prestigious philosophers and scientists back in the time were astrologers, because, for example, they were able to predict solar eclipses or lunar eclipses. So because they would tell their community that, well, in 2 weeks we're gonna have a lunar eclipse, and when it really happens, people would be surprised, like, oh my God, these people know they know the future, so we're gonna trust them more and more. Yeah, this is how it really evolved, and
Yeah, that's actually it's a huge thing in history with them deceiving the people. Like, I don't know if you heard about the Christopher Columbus story. As soon as he reached the North America, so he reached there, he's like, shit, we're out of supplies. So he goes to the American Indians or the natives and he says, listen, we need you to give us some food. They're like, no. So he goes back to the ship. He's like, how am I going to convince them? He looks up to the stars. He's also an astronomer. And he's like, oh, there's an eclipse coming soon.
Yeah.
So he goes to them. He says, if you don't give us food, my God will be very angry. And the sun, they're just like, fuck you, man. We ain't giving you shit. We believe in our own God. He's like, okay, don't say I didn't warn you. Passes like a week, maybe 2 weeks. And it happens, and they're like, "Oh shit!" And they go grab all their food and they give it to him. Like, he was a dick, man. Like, he did some shit.
That's funny.
But that actually happened, so it's pretty cool. So what's your star sign?
Back in those days, Columbus used to navigate from A to Z just using the stars, or those people, right? They didn't really have maps or GPSs, and
Well, yeah,
Can we
yeah,
can,
yeah,
can
for
we do
sure.
that today? Yeah.
Of
Where
course
do
you
you want to
can.
go? Tell me. But
Okay, say you got lost at sea, right?
yeah.
And it's nighttime. How would you navigate yourself?
Well, well, the first thing you want to know is where's north, where's south, where's east, where's west. So one of the things you would do is you try to find the North Pole, the Polaris, the northern star. Perhaps not many people would be able to locate Polaris these days because we all live in the cities. We're not used
Yeah.
to look at the stars. But remember back in the days, like thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago, there wasn't so much light pollution, so everyone was more familiar with the stars and with the sky. So most of them really knew where Polaris was, and they were able to locate it. It's not very hard to locate it. So the first thing you would do is to look at the northern star
Mhm.
located, so you'd know your north. If you know your north, you would directly know your south, and just by also knowing about other constellations, their shapes and locations in the sky, you would be able to see where's east and where's west. Another way would do just to look where the sun is rising, where it's setting, so you will tell where is east and where is west. So these were the ways really how people use the constellations and the stars to locate themselves for navigation and for other purposes, like even harvesting. Like, in the winter you get different constellations than you would do in the summer. This is why we have like the winter constellations versus the summer constellations. So when you have the summer constellations appearing in the sky, you relate this to hot weather. So they would assume that now this season will be the hot season, and vice versa. When you see the winter
Winter.
constellation,
Hmm.
yeah, they would know, okay, it's gonna be cold now, and this
Oh
is
wow.
really. Yeah, it was very, very important for them.
Hmm.
It really governed their life to some extent, like the constellations. It was important for them.
That's pretty cool. And because of light pollution now, I guess I can't see him anymore. Right?
Yeah, it's
No,
really
Is
hard to
is
look.
no,
this
no,
an issue
unfortunately.
for what
Of course.
when your work? Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, big issue. We see like most of the telescopes, for example, most of the telescopes I use for my research are located in the desert. They are located in Chile, in Arizona, in the US, and even in California at some points. Some of them are located in Africa, in Australia. So you really have to go to very remote places. So if I want to go do a follow-up observation, I couldn't just go to my backyard. I have to go all the way to Chile and to the deserts and to observe or to see what I need to see. So yeah, of course, it's an issue, big issue.
Is it the same This might sound like a stupid question, but is like if I was in Australia, right? That's very south in the world.
Hmm.
Is the constellation I see in Australia the same as, for example, the one I see in Russia, or is it like completely different based on where you are?
Well, it's a very good question actually, not stupid at all. But no, really, like it's a very good question
Thank you.
because as you have said, as you have said, like in the entire sky we have 88 constellations. 44 of these constellations appear in the northern part of Earth, so equator and above the equator, northern part of the equator. So people in Australia would see different constellations than people in Russia. Totally different
Oh
ones.
wow.
Maybe some of them will be in common, but most of them are different. And one cool fact about being in the southern sky, I'm not sure if you've ever been in the southern part of Earth, but there are two small galaxies. Okay, I mean, we live in this very large Milky Way galaxy with 100
Mhm.
billions of stars and so on. But the cool thing is, our Milky Way is, it's always starving. It always wants to eat more galaxies,
Oh.
and and really, and
Yeah.
and it's happening every single moment as we are speaking. Well, two of these hundreds of galaxies that the Milky Way is eating can appear with the naked eye from the southern part of Earth. So these are called the SMC and the LMC, the small Magellanic Cloud and the large Magellanic Cloud. You can see them
Oh.
with the naked
Oh
eye.
wow. Wait,
Yeah.
this
What do they
small.
look like?
Yeah. I mean, can you pull up a picture?
Let me
What
see. So
small? What's
Yeah.
it called?
You can just Google SMC LMC. SMC LMC, Large
SMC
Magellanic Cloud. Well,
LMC.
they look like clouds. This is why we call them Magellanic clouds, because they do look like clouds. You wouldn't see much if you are looking with the naked eye, but with a good telescope, it would be very interesting. And these two clouds, actually, in these two small, we call them dwarf galaxies, we have new stars being formed. So it's a nursery for stars. New stars are being born right there.
So where would they be on this beautiful picture right here?
What well, you can just you see this image. You cannot just locate it like this, but if you go the third row of what I see, the third row, you have these two clumps. Yes, this one for example, you see
These
these two
two kind
clumps.
of look like these two right here.
Maybe
No?
so.
Where oh yeah, exactly. I didn't see that. Yes,
All right.
these are exactly the SMT. I mean, if you have a nice telescope, you would be able to see them with colors. You could see some of the structures. Really interesting objects we have in our galaxy.
All right.
So let's get down to the really cool part of being a astronomer. I almost said astrologist, and what happens when a star dies?
Oh, well, you have different scenarios when stars die. The fate of a star really depends on its initial mass. So, for example, stars come with different masses and different sizes. Let's focus on masses. Um, if you have a if you have an average star, average in mass, if you have an average star like our sun, for example, what it would be doing its entire lifetime, it would be fusing hydrogen to helium. And eventually it will not have any more hydrogen to fuel at its core. So what happens in this case, very briefly, is that it will expand in volume. So it will become a giant star. We call them red giant stars. And after it becomes a red giant star, it will start to pulsate. It will throw all the gases away into space, into the interstellar medium. And what would be left eventually is what we call a white dwarf. And the white dwarf is like the corpse of the star. A white dwarf is the central part of the star that was fusing hydrogen to helium.
Wow.
And all these gases that would escape from those stars will actually move in space, mix up with other gases from other stars that have died to form newer stars. So
Oh
it's
wow.
really, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
totally recyclable universe. Now this is the sweet way of how some of the stars die. They would pulsate, they would get larger, and then they would throw the gases very peacefully, very nicely. But if you have more massive stars die in a more violent way. So they wouldn't just, inflate and then throw the gases away. They would actually, first of all, they would expand in volume. So they would become super giants. And then they will explode with what we call as supernova explosion. And,
Supernova.
yes, supernova explosion. And supernova explosion is, if you really think, if you read the literature of astronomy, you will realize that all these names, we give really cool names for different different phenomena that is happening in the sky. But when big stars die, they explode with the supernova explosion, and this is the most violent explosions we have in the universe.
That's an
And
explosion.
even after the explosion, you have two scenarios. The star will either become a neutron star, and this is something very dense, made from neutrons mainly. Or if it was even more massive than you can imagine, it will become a black hole. And I'm
wow.
sure, yeah, I mean, this is how black holes are formed by supernova explosions, by the death of stars. Really,
And,
really
Wow.
cool.
and our star is
interesting.
which star? And our star is
Our star is the nice type of stars. It's the star of an average mass. So it's been living for less than 5 billion years, and it still has 5 more billion years to live. So this is the good part. But the bad part is when it dies, because it will not have more hydrogen to fuse at the core, it will expand, become a red giant, and it will really eat up the inner planets. So it will eat up the first three planets, including
Earth.
our poor Earth. Yes.
Wait,
But,
really?
but we have 5 billion
boy.
years to go. So
5 billion years to go.
I think this is why Elon Musk is really excited about going to Mars
All
and
right,
going
perfect.
to other planets.
You transitioned it perfect
Yeah.
to Mars.
Yeah.
Right. How close are we to getting to Mars?
Mars. Okay, well, let me see. Well, if you read the news and if you they claim it will be coming in. Well, let me say one thing. We can always send rovers to Mars. This is something that has been happening over the years. Even UAE has, like the UAE Space Agency, they have just sent a rover not to land on Mars, but to take images for
Oh
the
wow.
atmosphere of Mars. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we have few
Robots on
rovers on Mars.
Mars. Mhm.
But when will a human being land on Mars? I would say, really, from a very scientific point of view, I would say it will take probably, I would say 25 years. I would guess that 20, 25 years. Although you might, find people saying maybe 10 years or 5 years, but this is more for, encouraging people and the youth. Like, really, really.
You think
It's,
Elon
it's
Musk is just kidding when he's like, yeah, in
no,
5 years we'll be on Mars.
not at all, not at all. He actually is very serious. I really
Mm.
respect that man. I really love him. I follow what he does, and I respect him so much. But even when scientists agree to build a telescope, the first thing they would do, they will be like, okay, in 5 years it will be ready, and then in 4 years they will be like, okay, we're gonna extend it for 3 more years, and then 4 more years, and 5 more years. So this is more political, really, to get funding, to excite people, and so on. It's just how it goes, really.
I
It's
see.
not easy to send anyone to Mars.
Is it true 2020 is the closest Mars is going to be for a while? Like Mars is very close in our constellation now, and
Yeah, yeah.
around September and October it was like very, very close. So did you get the
Really?
chance to see it on the telescope?
Well, I've seen Mars many, many times on the telescope, and when they tell you like it's gonna be the closest distance to Earth and so on, well, I have to say it's not very interesting, even if it was like few thousand kilometers closer, because for people with a telescope, it's not gonna be so much different. Maybe this would be important for people who are sending rovers to Mars, or satellites to Mars. But just, even if it was much, much closer, even when you look at Mars, it will still appear as this bright star, and that's it, really.
Bright red
So
dots in the sky.
yeah, exactly. And it's interesting why it is red. Do you know why Mars is red? Any
Because
idea?
the sands of Mars is filled with iron, I think.
Kind of, yeah, kind of. Because always think of iron. Like when iron gets rusty, it gets this red color, and it's
Yeah.
kind of similar. Not
I just
exactly,
think
but
of
kind of similar.
hemoglobin, to be honest. That's why I said.
Well, good. I think that's a good comparison.
But
That's a
yeah,
good
it's amazing. They're saying that. Okay, so help me clear this out of the park right here.
Yeah.
They say that if they send a bunch of nuclear bombs to Mars, they can terraform the planet and make it, habitable with oxygen and things like that.
Oh wow.
Like this, I heard this somewhere. I just can't remember where, but I literally
I heard it somewhere. I read it on something.
But honestly, like, is this true or?
A comment section on YouTube or something. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing. Yeah, but is it true? I've heard it true. I've heard it true. Yeah.
Okay. Well, is it true? Well, practically, if you think about it, if you send enough energy to that planet, you might be able to get some kind of an artificial atmosphere, and and then you have to give it so much time. We're talking about millions of years, or maybe billions of years, until it gets a very stable atmosphere. Like, theoretically speaking, yeah, okay, we can do this. We might be able to come with this. But practically, I think this would be impossible, really, even with all of our technologies today. So this is really, really, really futuristic idea that might happen. Like, you just asked me, when are we going to Mars? And I said, the best case in 20-25 years. So imagine going to Mars and making an atmosphere. So
Yeah.
That's
you will have to wait
another
like
step.
1 billion years
Yeah.
if human beings survive.
Yeah.
Even
If
in
we
our
survive.
planet. Yeah, of course, if you survive. Even in our planet, we are trying so hard to fight global warming, close the layer, some of the openings, some of the holes in the ozone layer, and so on. So it's very challenging to save our planet. So how about going to another one and making an atmosphere for it?
Yeah, no.
Crazy. But
here's what's crazier. There is this theory of, because Mars's atmosphere is all carbon dioxide, that if they plant enough trees, and like it might be able to help produce oxygen, more oxygen,
Yeah,
breathable air around Mars. So
yeah, yeah. I agree. I mean, again, these are theoretical. These are things that we can do, but they are not practical at all. At all. Like, why haven't we planted enough trees on Earth? Like, it would be easier to plant trees here. But it's
That's so
just,
funny.
I mean,
That's true.
It is true.
the ideas you're saying are really like they are doable, let's say, but not practical at all. Who's gonna invest in this? Who's gonna pay money for this? I think it costs like to send 1 kilograms of anything to space, okay, to the space station, not even to Mars. I think I can't remember the number exactly, but I think it costs around, I would say $20,000 or even more than that. So it's just
Yes,
not
yeah.
practical.
how much? How much does a seed cost?
It's not much. I mean, it
One-
depends.
It's like,
It
Depends on
the
what kind of seed. Yeah.
like a tree, like an acorn for a tree, for example. I'm pretty sure you can grab around like.
maybe $1. I don't know. I don't
Sure.
know.
I'm sure you can grab a bunch and take them with you. Like keep them in the astronauts,
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
astronaut's pocket. As soon as he's there, he's just like, bah, and he pops it in the ground.
Yeah, but
Do
you
you-
forgot one very important thing, and that would be water, right?
I mean, but there are ice caps in Mars, aren't there? Like they can melt the ice caps in Mars and use that as no? Is that not a thing?
These are all doable ideas, but first let us land on Mars, like
You know what?
That's
That's-
I respect your ideas. I mean, I'm liking this. Like you are very, very futuristic. I'm liking it.
I'm trying to be the next Elon Musk,
I see it.
but funner. Nah, there's no way you can be funner than Elon Musk. That guy's amazing.
Yeah, he's a character. He's a character. Have you seen his dance in? I think it was in China, like when he launched something. New
dance?
and yeah, he
I see.
started dancing like an alien or so. Have you seen
I
that?
didn't- I
I'm
haven't
trying to
seen
find that.
That's funny. It's I mean, this year didn't Tesla just launch someone and brought them back to Earth from the moon,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
sorry, into space? Yeah.
Yeah, to the space station. You see, SpaceX is doing
Yeah.
an amazing job. I always tend to think of SpaceX as Uber or Kareem, but not for going to places on Earth, but to going to space. So what he did is he came up with this idea of why every time you go to space, or to be specific, to the space station, to the International Space Station, we have to lose all of the rocket and it has to be destroyed and so on. But anyway, he did develop a capsule, okay, the Dragon capsule,
Yep.
which can take supplies and astronauts all the way to the space station, and it can also bring them back.
Oh, wow.
And this year he was able to do this.
Did you watch the live stream? Did you watch it?
I did.
I watched
did.
it. I watched it
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
It was amazing.
Awesome.
It was really cool. I got the dance. If you guys want to watch the Elon Musk
let's
dance,
see it.
Tesla, like I'm interested in this. Here, let's check it out.
Right and left. Yeah, this one.
That's so funny.
This is Elon Musk, okay? He's like this multi-billionaire guy.
This is the guy that's beating NASA
Yeah.
Yeah.
right here. Like,
Well,
that's-
NASA is supporting Elon Musk,
They didn't before. You know why they're supporting him now? Because with or without their support, he's gonna win the space race. Like, so they're like, you know what? We can't beat him. Let's just support him. There's nothing we
Sure.
can do, really.
And one thing about, I mean, he's saving them so much money. At least he will save them so much money, because every time NASA has to send astronauts to space, they go with the Russians, with the Soyuz capsule all the way to the space station. But it's the first time since I think 20 years that a US built rocket is taking an astronaut to space, and this is really the very important part. And in the Soyuz, in the Russian Soyuz, it can take up to 3 people, 3 astronauts. But in the capsule that SpaceX is developing, and it has already developed, they can take up to 5 astronauts. So this is
Wow.
Wow.
yeah, and with much less costs. This is the important part.
So, to people who don't really understand all this space talk, Like, why is it important to go from 3 to 5? How is this like important or amazing? Because like I kind of understand, but not really. So
I mean,
how?
you just have more capacity. Like let's say you have one car and it fits two people, and you want to take four people to that specific location. So that car has to go, back and forth 4 times. Well, if you have one big car which would take four people, you can just, take a back
Oh,
and
trip.
forth trip like 2 times exactly. So you're just saving so much energy, so much time. It's more safe and so on. You just have more capacity to carry more stuff. You will save fuel, you will save equipment, you will save hydrogen fuel, and so many things. It's
Oh,
just
wow.
more practical. Yeah, I mean, if
And
you
it's
want to send
safer.
some, yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
than
And
going back and forth so many
of
times. Yeah.
of course, of
Hmm.
course, of course. Yeah,
I
I mean, if
mean,
you want to send if you want to send astronauts to Mars, I mean, you should send few of them, not only one or two. And this plays a major role in the development uh,
Do you want to go to
of
space?
species.
Do you want to go to
Me,
space? Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I mean, if you get me a ticket right now, I'll go like with no fear at all. One thing actually, I was in the astronaut program, which was moderated by Chris Hadfield. I don't know if you
of
have
course
heard
I
of
know who
Chris.
he is. He's the Canadian
Yeah,
astronaut.
he's one of the best actually. He's one of the best, and he's a very tough, nice, educated, intelligent man. Like, I've had the privilege really to be in that program, and we were in the UAE for like, I think it was like 4 weeks, and then we went to Russia for like 3 or 4 weeks to Star City, and we had to go with these trainings, with these tests, with these challenges, all under the, like Chris Hadfield was observing us, like, and we had so many challenges. One of them, for
Like
example,
what? Yeah.
yeah, well, there was so many. Like, one of them, yeah, for example, one of them, they sent us to this Soyuz capsule, the real Soyuz capsule, where real astronauts would train, and there were so many buttons in front of us, like hundreds of buttons, all in Russian. Yeah, all
All
in
in
Russian,
Russian.
and they will simulate different scenarios. Like, at some point they will throw some smoke and we have to follow the instructions and do what they tell us. At
Mhm.
some point, here in Dubai, for example, they put us in a capsule. Also, we went underwater, and then the capsule rotated 360, and we had to escape and follow the instructions. And then when we escaped, there was Chris Hadfield asking us like, what happened? Tell me, give me a report of what happened. So it was really, really a great, great experience. It's called The Astronauts.
Mhm.
And yeah, yeah, amazing, amazing
Here,
experience.
Ali, you know who Chris Hatfield is. You just don't know what his name is. This is him right here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh,
Very
awesome.
famous, very awesome guy. I mean, I'm so happy I even met this guy. Like,
Dude,
not
it's
only met,
like
but
you met a guy who actually went to space and lived in the
yeah,
ISS. Like it's
yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
But how
Well,
long?
I met few astronauts actually,
Mhm.
and like, I have some of them. I'm, in a good connection with them. I invite them sometimes to where I work to give talks, inspiration talks, and so on. But with Chris Hadfield, it was different because we actually I had to do some work, not only just sit and chat. I'm like, oh, tell me about your experience and so on. Like, he was
Yeah.
very serious man, and do this, do that, and that's it, and goodbye.
I
Goodbye.
mean,
Yeah.
There you go.
but it's amazing because like space is something. I think it's the final frontier, right? This is like
Oof.
we're done. We explored everything
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Earth. All that's left now is like literally the skies, right?
The next frontier. Yeah, is going
Yeah,
Mars. Yeah. Mm.
it's not the next. It's the final frontier. Like that's it. It's just space,
Yep.
and we're done.
You-
Like we
Yeah, I
can
mean,
close the
where
book
where
on.
where else would you go? Yeah, where else would you go?
Like there's nowhere else. So
But yeah,
how has this field of work humbled you? Because I know it's a very humbling
yeah,
experience to actually sit and like look at the stars in the sky.
yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I see this with also the people who work with me, in different places, even in the US or in Europe and so on. What you realize is, once you start getting to know more and more about astronomy, or even science in general, actually, you get to know that, like, this is really a complicated, life is very complicated. the mechanisms of life, they are very complicated. And the more you go deeper with science, with quantum physics, with astronomy, with the universe, with the concepts of time and so on, you realize that many of the things that people really care about these days do not really matter in reality. Because you're going so far with your thoughts, you're going so far with reality. You're trying to find how the universe started, and you start looking at life from a different perspective, from a different point of view. So it calms you in some point, in some parts of your life. It gives you, this chilly feeling, like, okay, you don't care much about what most people care about. Let's
Yes.
put it in that sense. But at the same time, I have to be honest, sometimes it can be annoying. Like, sometimes I even yeah, i
What do you
mean i
mean?
mean some, like,
Mhm.
if you if you go so deep in some topics, sometimes, I don't want to say you lose it, but sometimes you stop enjoying what you should
Mhm.
be enjoying,
Wow.
at some points. And I know some people, some of my colleagues, like they really, they are, I would say, they're not sociable at all. Let's call it like that.
Existential
And
crisis, maybe.
at some point, yes. And
Wow.
like, this all doesn't matter and so on. But not all of us, of course, are like that.
I
Like,
mean,
I'm
look
not
at you.
that
You're
sort of
you're
person.
happy and you're
Yeah.
laughing. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is what you see, right?
I
No, for
guess.
sure, for sure. You have to do. No, I am a happy person, but
Thank
you have
God.
to do the balance. You have to do the balance, definitely.
Well, what I love about like space specific, and what I love about Elon Musk specifically, is that his goals are so like big and huge. As you say that, like the little things around us don't really bother him that much. It's like even COVID or something. That was pretty big for all of us, but for him, he's like, I got to get back to building more cars and building more
Mhm.
rockets, and because he has this idea that we need to get there by
Yeah,
this
that's
time.
all. Yeah,
That's all he
yeah.
thinks about. So it is kind of
That's what matters.
inspiring, yeah, to think of like
Definitely.
to do that. What's the next? Are there any other planets that are habitable for us in this like Milky Way other
Well,
than
if there
Mars?
would be
Mm,
somewhere that we would go to, it would be Mars for now.
mm,
It would be Mars. All Most of the other planets have problems. Uh, Perhaps some of Jupiter's
Moons.
or Saturn's, yes, exactly, moons. I would never say they are habitable, but they are more habitable than any of the other planets we have in the solar system. Like, if you go to Mercury, it's too hot for you because it's so close to the sun.
Yeah.
If you go to Saturn or
it's just
Jupiter, well,
gas.
yeah, it's just gas. Like, you cannot land anywhere. You will be crushed. So maybe you go to Enceladus. Enceladus, for example, is interesting because recently it has been found. Well, we think that it has so much water in it because they discovered those gases of methane. And methane is usually there when you have some kind of bacterial life at the
Oh
core
wow.
of the sea. One interesting one interesting fact related to that is
Hmm.
our atmosphere. Like, have you ever asked yourself how our atmosphere was created? Any idea?
Lots and lots
Um,
of volcanoes. That's all I know.
Okay, part of it I agree with that, and the other part would be farts. As simple as it is, and it would be farts of bacteria.
Really? Wait,
Yeah.
like actually, like, oh wow.
Yeah.
that's
And
A
wild.
this is
breathing bacteria fart, boys.
yeah, at some point, yeah, because bacteria. I mean, the our atmosphere is composed of different molecules and gases and so on. And parts of these gases, for example, were created by bacteria. Some of the bacteria usually live at the core of the oceans. So, at the rocks at the core of the oceans. And when they live at that point, they have to eat, and then they have to fart. And when they fart, all these gases will come up all the way to the surface of the ocean, and then they will go up, and then they got stuck in our atmosphere. So you have to give it millions and billions of years for you to have a stable atmosphere.
Mm.
So part of our life is, we should be grateful for
Bacteria
everything
fart.
around.
I'm
Yeah,
grateful
for
for you, Mo.
bacteria. Uh-huh.
So
That's
this
great.
What do you mean? It's already there now. I was born after. I was born after.
Ouch! I just realized. No,
fair.
but these bacteria that you were talking about. So I read that they were chemotrophs, which means they eat chemicals.
Mhm.
But where do they get the chemicals from?
Are you talking about the bacteria in Enceladus
Yeah, no.
or
The ones that made our atmosphere.
Yeah, well, honestly, I'm not so sure. I'm not specifically sure
All right,
about
fair.
what they eat.
Let's leave the tiny stuff and let's go back to the macro scale and
Oh wow.
science of the
UFOs.
Yeah.
UFOs, man. Do you
All right,
believe in them?
Mo. Do you believe? All right. Yes.
No?
Well, can you give me a definition of UFO?
Okay,
What is it?
alien life form from different planet.
Well, no, unidentified flying objects. That's what UFO is.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
right. This is the acronyms of UFO. But here's the thing: the question is there life out there? Okay, any sort of life, like bacterial life, viral life, other sorts of life that we never thought about? The answer is most probably yes. Have you ever found it? Have you ever detected any sort of life out there? The answer is no, we have
Oh
not.
wow. Okay.
Statistically speaking, our Milky Way has 100 billions of stars, and around every star you have planets. This is a fact. And in the universe that we live in, it is made from 100 billions of galaxies. So 100 billions of galaxies. In each galaxy, 100 billions of stars. Around every star you have planets and moons and so on. So the probability that there might be some sort of life out there is very high. Okay, but we have never detected it for many reasons, and this is why we cannot say yes, there's life. Now, do I believe in aliens on Earth, the green creatures coming and doing what they have to do, controlling the world, and all these theories?
Yes.
Not at all. Like I have
Okay.
zero confidence in this, and
Debatable.
not even debatable. No, don't even debate with me about
Debatable.
this. I'll just
Listen,
leave this.
You know what I believe? I've said this before. This is my personal belief. I think that there are humanoid aliens out
Among
there,
us.
right?
Mhm.
Not necessarily among us. I think that the fact that they reached us, they probably saw what they saw. They didn't like what they saw. They're like, wow, these guys are idiots, and they left, right? Because if they were able to come to us before we came, like before we went to them, that's already proof that they're much advanced and much more like intelligent than we are. Because
Of course, yeah.
we're struggling. We went to the moon once, and we're struggling to go there again. They've traveled for light years and light years, right? Just to come to
Yeah,
us. And like,
yeah.
so
I
it's
mean, if
crazy.
yeah, what you said is very, it's to the point. If they were able to reach us, actually, so they are really advanced because they have the techniques to travel light years, and this is something we're not gonna achieve anytime soon, of course. But I mean, it's an opinion. I respect it. Possible, statistically speaking, mathematically, scientifically speaking, very high possible.
I mean,
wow.
of course, like
Yeah.
I'm very certain that there are aliens. Like that. That's how. There might not be. There's like a 2% chance of doubt that I
Wow.
have, but 98% I
I
am
think
sure because it's
I think
impossible.
whoever finds life outside of Earth is gonna win whatever Nobel Prize or something. It's gonna be the biggest thing
It's
that'll
not just gonna
transform
win.
everything.
He's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
gonna be like the
yeah.
first
Cover
human
history. Yeah.
ambassador to another planet. Like it's gonna be that.
He finds like a bacteria or something. What is
Th-
like
that-
what are like the other things that like we need to do to discover more, or like what are other goals you have to learn about the Earth, about the Milky Way?
Well, there's so many things we don't understand. If you want to talk by numbers, the universe. If you ask a simple question, what is the universe made from? It's actually made from dark matter, dark energy, and what we call baryonic matter. Baryonic matter is, everything made from the periodic table. So everything around us, this laptop, the screen, this camera, the stars, the planets, the moon, the asteroids, everything you can think of are baryonic matter. Now, the weird thing is that baryonic matter only makes 5% of the universe. And the rest, 95% of the universe, is dark energy, dark matter. And these two entities, we have really, I don't want to say we don't have no idea about, but really, we don't know what they are. We know that they are there. they are there. We know they are 95% of the universe, and we know that we cannot see them, we cannot detect them, we cannot tell what they are. So most of the researchers around the world in astronomy, in science, and all this technology is all for that 5% of baryonic matter. So I think there's a lot and lot that are yet to be discovered with dark energy and dark matter. And if you were to discover and if you would answer the question of dark energy and dark matter, that would be worth a Nobel Prize for sure. Like, people are waiting for that discovery because it will change our understanding of the universe as a whole.
Wow.
Another thing,
Wow.
another thing we are really struggling in. Well, most people, don't get this. But think about this. If you recall from school, we have these different laws: electricity and magnetism, force of gravity. When you bring two magnets together, you know how they repel or attract each other. No, all these forces, we give each force a different equation. People are struggling. I mean, astronomers are struggling to find one equation which would solve all of our problems. Instead of saying, okay, so two planets are orbiting each other. Let me see what's in between them. Okay, it's the force of gravity. Okay, so this is the force between two magnets. So I'm gonna go for electromagnetic forces and so on, weak forces, strong forces, and so on.
Yeah.
But we are struggling in finding the absolute truth of all of our nature by giving one equation that would solve all of our problems.
Oh
If
wow.
you've ever heard of string theory, it is
Yes.
it's been
We
trying
did
to
an episode about string theory recently with
really.
Amin
Oh,
Abu Ibrahim. Yeah, check that out. Link in bio.
awesome.
But
I will. Oh,
yes, yes.
interesting.
But is string theory a waste of time or is it not?
Did he say that?
No,
So
I
No,
don't
what
think
is
he
it?
did.
Yeah,
He's
what's
literally
what's
working
oh,
on that. I don't think he's gonna think it's a waste of time if he's
well,
spending
because
most of it on that.
well, let me tell you the truth. It is a waste of time. Okay. No, it's not. No.
Go for it. What do you think that? Yeah,
Sorry
why do
for
you
no.
no.
Actually not.
Mm.
Actually not. It's a very smart approach
Mhm.
that is trying to help us in solving this issue. But I would have to say that in the past 20 years, it hasn't been able to do so, or even sometimes it gets closer and then everything, they find something new and then it blows up again. So they go back 5 years backwards and so on. I mean, it's a very smart approach. I always follow what string theorists are doing. Uh, I even did I actually did a presentation, like a talk, big talk about string theory, because I wanted to deliver it in the simplest way to the public, and I wanted to explain to them what string theory is all about, and how because with string theory you cannot solve the issue that I have just mentioned, like
Yeah.
getting this one super equation
Mhm.
by assuming that we live in a four-dimensional world. You have to assume that we live in 12-dimensional
Oh
world.
wow.
And just the fact that you are telling people, well, for us to have the answer, you need to think of 12-dimensional world. I mean, just that thought is
Yeah,
very scary and intriguing.
that's funny.
I mean, it's very scary. Not gonna lie. Like 12
Yeah,
different
yeah.
dimensions. So help these two idiots understand what like dimensions are, or
So
how
12
like yes, like what.
Actually,
Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. You should take it level by level. Okay, I,
Let's
I,
do it.
I will give you an example adopted from Neil Tyson. All right, so he gives this very nice simple example. If so, you are in Kuwait now, right? So
Mhm.
if you give me your address, you would tell me I live in that building at the fifth floor. So that would be three dimensions. X, Y, I would locate where you are on the planet Earth, and then the Z direction is going upwards, right? If you would like the second floor or the fourth floor or whatever, but if you tell me just meet me in that position, I cannot really meet you because I need to ask you one more question. What time should I meet you there, right? So this is where the fourth dimension is presented.
Oh
And so
wow.
somehow
Mhm.
our lives and our experiences and life itself is governed not by three dimensions, but by four dimensions. And that would be the three dimensions of space, just this is to locate you, and the one dimension of time. Now, with string theory, you have to go with higher dimensions. And one of the reasons why they think there are higher dimension is, for example, gravity. You see, gravity should have been very, very strong force. Like the forces between the planets should be much stronger than it is today. We
Mm.
think, or string theorists think, that most of the forces, the energies of these forces, of the force of gravity, actually leak to the other dimensions that we cannot see.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
and I could try to explain this to you, but
Yes.
no, it's very interesting, but it will take some time. Like I could take you from from one dimension all the way to the 12th dimension.
All
Think
right.
of
I
think
think we
of a
have
single.
time, don't we?
We still have a couple
Think
minutes. Mhm. Yeah.
think of the dot. The dot, this little dot, is zero dimensional. Okay,
Yeah.
if you put two dots together and you connect them with a line, you have one dimensional line bounded by two zero dimensional points. Now if you move from a straight line to a square, you would do a two-dimensional shape, which is bound by four one-dimensional lines. Now, if you move to a cube, for example, this would be three-dimensional shape, which is bound by six two-dimensional shapes, etc. So you can move up and up, but we are three-dimensional creatures, so our brains cannot conceive any extra dimensions. But the good thing is mathematics. Okay, mathematics is a language, and although humans cannot conceive or think of a fifth or a sixth or a tenth dimension, mathematics can actually access those extra dimensions. And this is what string theorists do. They try to access those dimensions using
Mathematically.
This
yes,
is
mathematically.
crazy.
But the thing is,
Okay, okay.
yes,
I
go
just want
for
to
it.
add one thing, just
Mhm.
to ground this thing. Okay, there has been experiments being done at the Large Hadron Collider in Europe. So here's the thing: by the law of physics, okay, by the law of nature, the energy is always conserved. Okay, so if you have two particles and you collide them, the energy before collision should be equal to the
Yeah.
energy after the collision. What they did at the LHC is that they accelerated some particles and they collided them, and they wanted to see if the energy before collision is equal to the energy after collision. And weirdly enough, the energy after was slightly less than the energy before. And
Hmm.
this was one of the, I wouldn't say proofs, one of the indications that might lead us to believe that there could be extra dimensions, and that this extra or this missing energy has
Went to a
leaked to
different
the.
dimension. I
Into a
see.
different.
Exactly. Yeah,
Whoa, my
yeah,
head
yeah,
is
yeah,
about to,
yeah.
dude. This is mind
Mind blown.
blowing. Yeah,
Yeah, this is
like
pretty
Yeah,
mind
yeah.
blowing. Mhm.
they're supposed to have equal energies. All of a sudden, no, they don't. Like it's a little bit less after. Where's that energy going? Couldn't wait,
Who
but couldn't
knows?
it be in the form of heat or maybe friction or?
Everything is taken care of. Everything is calculated.
Oh
Everything is
wow.
calculated. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, this takes me back to why I told you gravity should be stronger than it is. Why is it so weak? Why is gravity a weak force? Because not because we think it
We
goes
think.
to those
Mhm.
hidden dimensions, and yeah, it's a very big thing. It's a very big thing.
I see.
Very interesting.
Wow. All right.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Okay,
your
last
attention
last
skills there
last
are fine.
question. Last
Sure.
question
Okay.
before we wrap up. While studying what you do, which fact humbled you the most in
Oh.
all of space and the universe and everything that you've studied and learned? Which fact humbled you the most?
Honestly, it might sound, a very. Uh, it might not sound like the most interesting, but
Mm.
for me, from a personal experience, the first time I pointed a telescope to the sky, I pointed it to a very bright star. And I had no idea what that star was. And once I looked in the telescope, they were Jupiter. Okay. And I remember that moment. It's like someone slapped me on my face and he was like, okay, this is what you want to do. This is what you're going to be doing in your life. And this is it. Like, it's like I have found it. And I think, honestly, from that moment, I defined myself and I shaped myself to become, an astronomer. So I think that was my turning point when it comes to astronomy. It was Jupiter, as
That was
simple as it
good.
is.
Jupiter. Wow.
Jupiter.
That's it. For me.
best
It's the
planet.
fact. For me, it's what humbled me the most with space was basically of how something so bright can all of a
Yep.
sudden become something so dark. So you have the sun. It's the brightest objects in our universe, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
Yeah.
turn into a black hole, which is the darkest object in our universe.
Our sun can turn to black hole, but
Not
another
our
planet.
sun, but a sun in general. You know.
Yes,
Like,
yes,
Or
yes,
sun
other
is-
yes.
stars. Yeah.
Other
I mean,
stars.
And that's just amazing.
Yeah. I mean, so you're talking about singularities. Singularities are something else. We talked about string theory and the hidden dimension. Like, wow, the idea of singularities is very grounding.
It's amazing.
We'll leave that for our next episode.
Definitely,
sure.
man.
Yeah,
This
sounds
this
good.
has been so. Thank you for
Wow.
watching another episode. If you made
Mind-blowing.
it this far
Yeah.
and your mind is like blown, please
Please share it.
subscribe,
Yeah, and
share,
share it
like,
and subscribe.
all that
Mhm.
stuff.
Please. Come on.
Is there anything
Hey.
you'd like to shout out, Moe Abbas? Anything you'd like to let the world know?
Well, I just want to thank you guys for what you're doing. I'm really liking what you have been doing,
Thank you.
going on different topics. And I'm so glad you are shedding light on an astronomical topic. And now I learned you talked about string theory. And please keep on doing this because the people, especially in our part of the world, should know more about this. Not to become
Definitely.
professional astronomers, but just to be aware about what's around us.
Yep, pretty much.
Amazing. No.
So why don't you let the world know what happens if they don't subscribe? Because in case you didn't know, 75% of people who watch these videos are
They're
not
not?
subscribed.
They're not? Oh
They're
no.
really
What's
not.
what
So
happens
what-
if they don't
If they
subscribe?
don't subscribe.
Well, if they don't subscribe, I'm gonna, be trying to make a supernova out of the sun, and it's gonna destroy everyone here on Earth, or maybe
We don't want that guy subscribe.
I will try to attract an asteroid which is coming close to Earth.
Okay.
Just hit us.
And,
I want to live, so subscribe,
So
please.
please
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you for watching another episode. This is how we sign out. So to cover the cam and peace.
Amazing. I see every video at a time. It's like, oh,
Exactly. Yes, especially. And I do get overwhelmed, especially recently. I got a lot of attention, positive attention on Facebook, and that I used to upload every week, but because of the focus and the attention and everything, I was like, I kind of took a step back
okay.
because I thought that was just too much for me to handle. So I just I follow my guts.
I see. So you just touched on something. So you felt overwhelmed with all the positive attention you got? Isn't that?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people I feel like would be the opposite. They'd be like, I can't wait. I need to make double the amount of videos now or something.